Hello, Billy the Artist here, and I'm back with a how to draw video, and today we are going to do Newt Scamander. Now, I did do this before, as you can see we've done some other ones, but I wasn't happy with it, and I've increased things. So this is the one that I did before, and I just kind of wasn't happy. So it kind of looks okay, but I wasn't happy with it, and there were things that needed changing and doing, so I'm going to do it again. And you can see that from here. So that one can go out of the way. And again, in these previous videos, you will see, not this one, I did this one first. This was a quicker one, how to draw Professor Albus Dumbledore, played by Jude Law in The New Fantastic Beasts. That one is up. There's links in the cards and the description to the videos and the playlist with all these how to draw. We have the young Year 1 Harry Potter at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. We also have Johnny Depp as Grindelwald, and I've also done him as dishevelled as he's been arrested by the Aurors. Now, in these other videos, some of these, you will see that other Newt Scamander picture, but I wasn't happy, so I just wanted to redo it. So I'm going to do that, and I'll explain as we go into the picture and we get on with that. So, but these are about 1 hour 40 to 2 hour minutes long, and I'm using exactly the same techniques that I use in my how to draw videos, the cartoons, but just taking a little bit longer, showing you how to do a full portrait. So the thing is though, is if you spend a lot longer, this is like a 2-day job, this was a day job, drawing Prince Harry and Meghan Markle from the royal wedding, and Avicii sadly after he died, you can see what you do if you spend a lot longer. Now, I'm doing this to show you, for beginners really, basic techniques on how to develop your art skills. So I hope that you're enjoying these. Please do like and subscribe and share with your friends. But again, we have on the playlist, there's lots, there's over 110, 120 videos, but there's a complete set of the Incredibles. So we have Mr. and Mrs. Incredible, we have the daughter Violet, we have Dash, we also have the baby Jack, we have mum and baby Jack, and then we have Frozone and Edna Mode. Now, I did these, again, showing these basic techniques, but the colouring in took a lot longer, and Edna Mode's dress took a lot longer. That's why I've started to do these portraits, showing you the basic skills, how you can build on those just with time and practice. So do, please, enjoy your drawing and get really into practicing and drawing and using the shapes. Anyway, today we are doing Newt Scamander. Now, in the first Grindelwald one and the first Johnny Depp one, these are getting a little bit more complex. So I just divided the page into half, just showing you how to place reference points and using the basic shapes and how to draw anything to get your drawing down. But portraits are a little bit more complex. So I've put, I mean, you can see this line. You didn't have to put these on your paper as dark as I have. So you can see I've divided the page into quarters, but then you divide it again into quarters, and there's a very faint, excuse me, just hiccuping, a very faint line going up and across. Now, when you do yours, it's easier to rub out a fainter line, but I've drawn this one so you can see this centre line, and very, very faintly you can see the other lines. But I've got these, and you can see the grid on the reference photo. So divide your page up like that, and this is for any portrait, and then you have got better places for reference points to actually start your drawing and making your marks. So we're going to kick in with the top of his head, and you got a point there, and you got that light underneath. So I'm just putting these little marks in, and that's just below the kind of halfway point in that section, and he's got a curl that kind of comes down, so I'll just draw a little kind of rectangle shape. Now his chin, and the reason I wasn't happy is his chin was a bit too long and his head was kind of a little bit squished. So it wasn't much, but again, I wasn't pleased with it, so I wanted to do a better job for you guys and also for myself. So anyway, his chin kind of comes to there, and you've got the bottom of his shirt there. And this is essentially making a huge dot to dot. Again, I'm going to get a piece of paper that I can rest on. But because your hand will, as you build up the drawing, smudge as you rest on the paper. So you use another piece of paper on top and then you can draw nicely. But as I'm whacking in these points, that's kind of not necessary. So I'm going to put in the outside points first, and you can see his edge of his cheek is just on that side of the line, just inside the line. His shirt collar is about a third. That's going to go about there on that line. So you can just put down any points you want for what you're comfortable with. The bottom of his ear. Now his ear on the outside is, I mean, it's kind of on a quarter. So we can draw a box for that ear, and that goes up, and the hair here, we've got another box there. You've got a little triangle there where the hair goes up, and his hair comes across and then down. So you can see there, just using these reference points, and you can see there's a bit of a triangle shape there. Now this hair is on this side is about a third, so we'll just curve that down to that point, and then again it's kind of just inside the halfway line a little bit. So we've got that point there. Now this here is pretty much dead on where those two lines intersect. So I'm going to draw a bit of a triangle, and those ears kind of match. And then the hair here comes right out past the halfway point. And that bounces round on the halfway. Then you've got this amazing highlight which follows inside, and you've got all the way around the inside of the top of his hairline, a little bit of a triangle there. And then we want his hair coming across. I'm sorry, there's been pollen. It's quite a hot summer here in England, in the UK, and that's been affecting a lot of people. So I do have water. I'll just take a sip just to keep my voice hopefully supple, which would be helpful as I'm talking to you and doing this. So anyway, we need to get these lines in. So his hairline goes right the way across. On this side, where his hair comes over, just inside we've got a little triangle where it comes down by his ear. So you've got that triangle going up there. Now you've got, I would say, that highlight from there is about a quarter of the way across. And so again, like I say, just having these reference points in his eye just kind of comes past. So what we need is that angle coming down from that hair across. I'm just going to put a box in so you can see the bottom of his eye, well, a rectangle. So there is Newt Scamander's left eye, and if we come down, so there's the bottom of his chin, and we can place his lips. So that's about halfway. And you can measure up, you can use your pencil on the reference. So if you kind of, aim at the reference, you can see and use the pencil as a guide. So the top of Newt's lips are about halfway. So you then, no, it's not halfway, hang on, just checking if that's halfway in between the box, not halfway between, so it's between the two lines, not to his chin. So you can then, you can either do it just straight visually or you can measure up. So where I put that mark is about halfway. So we know that's where Newt's lips are going to go. So if I just draw an oval shape, then, and you can see how that comes over to on this side just inside the kind of halfway line, and the same on that side where you've got the little crease, and it's not like that's about halfway, and you can see the crease going up is inside the halfway line, and the shadow there that forms the indent in his cheek is about on the halfway point. So we can knock down the top of his lip, and this is just about getting nice simple little reference points in. So now we've got a little V for Newt's nose, and where the inside of his eye is, we've got this rectangle shape here, which is going to be the shadow on the inside of his nose. And then on this side we've got this lovely highlight. Now again, we can put that reference point for the edge of his nose on this side, and we've got his eyebrow underneath the hair that's coming down. So we've got a triangle shape for the hair that's coming down, but you've got the top of his eye on this side that's going to be just underneath that hair that's coming down as well. And then we've got this lovely highlight again. So you've got two highlight points coming from the kind of sides and just behind, that's shadowing the front with a little bit of fill-in light on his nose. So that's why we've got these strong highlights, and that's why I quite like this. It's a shading challenge. So that what we need is a rectangle then for Newt's eye, but that point is going over there where his eye comes down, and it's joining the edge of that shadow. And then we've got, like I say, we've got these nice rectangle shapes, which is the shadow points. And here, pretty much on the halfway point, is you've got the crease like on this side, which is the edge of his mouth, like his kind of smile crease. And you've got that shadow that goes up there, and then you've got where his nose joins and comes down. So again, we'll just indicate his lips, the centre of his lips between his top lip and his bottom lip, and you've got a very pointed chin. So now here again, I'll do the outside parts, because this will help. So we can see that the edge of his coat, you've got this triangle here, and then that goes up and is going to touch his cheek above the side of his nose, and it's just slightly curved. But what we have now, we've got this very angular point on the side of his head, and that, and again I'm just using a 2B pencil, and we'll use 4B for the dark. Didn't mention that earlier as I did in the other videos. So this is just for general sketching, and it's just a pencil that I use quite a lot. So now we can see where the edge of his nose is, where if you come down, it's where his chin starts to go up, and just to the right, so you've got two kind of lines. So we've got a line coming up there, and then you've got the edge of his cheek. That's like the kind of shadow line that you can see going up the side of his cheek, and then going right the way up. That then goes up and joins the side of his cheek on there, that side, and you can see that little curve going to that kink and then coming back in, cut it back in, and now we need to do the same on this side. So we've got where the edge of his face is, coming down to about below where the edge of his nose is. So it kind of matches on that side, and then it cuts around. So we've got the line coming down, and then that nice simple curve coming down to join his chin on this side. We just need to round that a little bit where you've got the shadow underneath. So there you can see the shape of Newt's face, and then we've got this great shadow. So you've got this little circle of little oval of light there, and you've got this great shadow underneath that then goes up, and we want to put the shapes in for these very powerful highlights. So here you've got this rectangle of light coming down. You can see how it needs to come down kind of just above where his cheek is, and you've got that little point of light, and then you've got that rectangle shape going up and touching where his eyebrow is. And then we've got shape of hair. So you've got the hair going right up and across, little rectangle there, and then the shape as his hair comes around to join this little bit that drops down right on his forehead. So there are a lot of points down, and you can see we're just building that up quite carefully. Again, we now have his bow tie. The top of his shirt is there, and his bow tie comes across, that's level with that. So if we just draw a big rectangle, and that's the kind of back and the side of the bow tie, and then we've got the front. So there's a box for the front. And the very front of his bow tie is kind of tilted, and then this side it drops down. It's not completely square. And you can see that comes across quite a distance. And you can be as loose as you want on these. So again, now what we need is to put the outside of his coat in. So actually I'll just indicate the shape of his ear. And that goes right out because his coat comes from here and then comes down. It's a little bit lower than the point on this side. And we've got that highlight that's going to go inside there. That's the top of his collar. And then inside, right the way down, you've got that folded inner part of the fabric, and then you've got the shadow that's in there. We've got a very bright highlight for where the edge of the big kind of collar goes across, and then that line carries on down, and you've just got a nice simple triangle that comes up. Again, you've got this little pyramid there and a little diamond highlight there, and you can indicate these shapes in and just keep building it up little by little. So now into the shadow we have, and it comes down, this is the edge of his jacket inside. You can see the jacket comes to the bottom, but you can see where that point comes down, so you can draw that line down, and then the edge of the collar on his jacket goes there, and then behind his bow tie you've got, and we've got this reference point here, that's the edge, the outer edge of his shirt collar. Now what we need is his neck coming down from his ear inside in the shadow. So that comes down to there, and then that flows round and gives you the top of, and you can see where it starts to come down. It's like the bottom of his cheek, the bottom of his lip, and then that starts to curve around and follow his jawline, and it comes down right on top. There we accentuate his chin right at the bottom. Just detail that up. Just going to remove a little bit of that pencil. And then on this side is collar. In fact, let's just finish this collar off here. So what we need is that collar comes down, and you've just got the point, the edge of his collar. Then you've got the button. The button's about halfway, so a nice little circle to indicate the button. Just inside you've got where the shirt folds over with the bit of the button that you hold, push the button through, and then the jacket side on there, and that goes up right into the dark. Now here you can see the edge of the collar that mimics this side. In fact, we need to get that collar going up and the shadow line coming down underneath, and that's in the dark. And so that's the edge of his collar, and then that comes all the way down to bottom, and then again we've got the lapel, the jacket lapel that comes across, and that goes right out. It's a bit lower than that one, so we've got that edge coming down, and then the triangle shape is made up there. You've got a little line of it coming back in. So that's all the basic outline shapes down carefully but quickly. So now we can start to add a little bit more detail. So on his nose we can see that shape, you've got a nice U shape coming round and up, going out to the edge of his right nostril. And then we've got, coming up to here, you've got this triangle of shape where the highlight is, but you want to follow the curve of his nose with that highlight. So that's going to go inside there, and it goes about halfway up. So you've got that great big shape going up, and you can see that the highlight is just underneath the centre line. So then we can just bring that down into the crease of where his nose is, and we can push that out to his nostril. Now again, on this side we need to carefully indicate the side of his nose and underneath where his nostril is, and that's where the crease of that nostril goes as well. Now again, we've got this shadow shape again. The nose goes right the way up to the centre point, and you can see the shadow curves up to where his eyebrow is. So now we're going to put the detail in of Newt's eyes. So we can see here from where this strong highlight is, we've got the edge of Newt's eye. We've also got the bottom here, so of his eyelid. So you can see it's quite a way up above the centre line. Now you've got this lovely ellipse shape that his eye is, and it's quite curved. So what I'm going to do is, if we indicate where all of his eyebrow is, and that comes down right to that point, you can see the shadow just curves around the inside of the nose. The very top of his eye is just underneath, so this is like the fold above his eye, like his eyelid, going between his eyelid and his eyebrow. So for this point that's out here on the side, you've got a straight line that goes up to that top point from about the edge of his eyebrow, and then this very top part then curves down, and it curves down and pretty much comes right the way. It's just inside his nose. So you've got the shape of that shadow there. So if we just get rid of that darker line. And then now I'm starting to use the paper so that I don't smudge the drawing too much with my hand as we go along. Now, the eyes are called the window of the soul. So this is something that you really need to focus on, pun intended. This is his tear duct, and that comes down to about there. So we've got the shape. You can see the gap from the centre line to the bottom of his eye, and then above is about the same. And you've got that curve that comes right the way round. And then his tear duct goes right in. And then we want the curve coming right over and down to this inside point. And then the crease goes out and down, and then you've got the curve of the underneath of his eye. And then you can put the outer part of his iris in, and then his pupil. Again, I'm just going to leave a little bit of space of paper for the highlight. Now it is a very subdued, because the strongest highlights are from the side, and then we can darken that down a bit. You can just see the eye starting to look back out at you. I'm going to shade in that little part there. And then you can indicate, you can see how you go along, you just indicate gently and then detail up with slightly darker lines. And that's the same with the crease above the top of his eye. And that starts to make the eye become the focal point in your drawing. Now again, if we do the same on this side, I'm just going to darken down. The edges of those. I don't know if you can hear the birds tweeting outside. There's also children playing in the school, which is about a quarter of a mile away. You might be able to hear them on the recording, but I have to have my window open, otherwise it would get a little bit too hot. Now again, we've got this hair that comes down on this side, right over his eyebrow, and right into the eye that's on this side of the drawing, his right eye. So we can see that it's a bit lower than this one because it's just slightly lower. And we've got this shadow that comes up. You can see it's just kind of mirrored, well, not mirrored, but in line with the top of his left eye. So if we bring that line over, and you can see how that comes right the way down. and it's about on a third, so you've got a third, a third, and a third. So you've got that edge there, and then you've got this really strong highlight. It is kind of in the halfway point here. So you've got that strong little rectangle of highlight there. And that's the edge of where his eye is. And so now, if we bring down that hair more, and we've got this very strong little indication of, you know, piece of hair that's coming out there. And then we've got his eyebrow. We can use the shadow shapes to help to place everything. So there we've got the crease that comes down off his eye. And it's very in shadow down on this part. Now, his tear duct is in line with his nostril, so you know that this corner is going to be, the corner of his tear duct is going to be in line with his nostril. So we've got that reference point there. And we can draw that shadow line down, and then we've got the curve going up. It's very dark, and then that just comes over and comes down to join the crease. And we can change the angle of that highlight, and then the flat of his eye, bottom of his eyelid, comes right the way across to join his tear duct. And his tear duct is quite large in that corner. And then his pupil, you get the full of his iris going up. Again, they should be about the same size. So here we're just drawing very, very carefully, and then we want the pupil. I'm just matching these up, and this is all in shadow as well, but we've got this very strong highlight from this hair that comes in. So I'm just going to pull off the pencil using the putty rubber, because that drops right in to his eye, and that's all very dark. Inside and underneath there, and the crease that goes over the top is a lot closer, so they're not as separated as on this one. And so we've got the crease that kind of follows the line down. on this side. And we do the underneath part of his eye, coming round of his bottom eyelet. And if we darken his iris in, and you've got a lot of shadow there. There you've got Newt Scamander's eyes very carefully and quickly put in. So there we have just these good points all connected to allow us to build up the detail, and we can push that around and keep pushing the shading around as we build up more and more shading on the image. Now that's given us a pretty good set of reference points to work to. So now we can start to build up stronger lines and stronger details. But before I do that, I am going to rub out the construction lines that are inside Newt's portrait, including the light ones, just so that that then doesn't obscure any of the drawing that we're going to do next. So again, you can see I'm using a hard PVC free eraser, and I've got this old brush. Rather than using my hand, it'll smudge it. If I try and do it with my finger, that will actually smudge the drawing. I've just got this big old brush, and you can just brush off the pencil lines quite easily. Now I've lost, there's some of the bits that I've actually lost in that. So now we can just detail up. I'm just going to use another 2B pencil that's a bit sharper. So now we can indicate all of their facial features a little bit stronger to get that outline down. So here we've got the side of his head comes up, and then the side of his cheek coming down, and then curves around. His left ear, you've got that outer line shape, and again there's quite a strong highlight on it, and it goes out and then just kind of kicks back in. So carefully I've put that in, and then you've got that strong highlight, and you've got a bit of hair coming down, very strong highlight of hair, and we have the inner parts of his ear, just the creases. So again, using the grids on the photo, you can place in these points very, very quickly. So there we have the edge of that ear. Now this side you've got the highlight that gives you the contour of the side of his right cheek coming down the right hand side of his face, and that curves down into this shadow right the way down to underneath his chin. Again, you've got that little line that gives you the indent in his cheek, going up his jawline up to his cheek. And then this part of his cheek just curves ever so slightly up to where the edge of his jaw then joins his cheek. And then you can see that little shape going up to the edge of his face. Now again, you don't have to do these lines as dark as I'm doing. I'm just doing them so that you can actually see the whole image come together. Again, on this jawline going up, we've got that lovely shape, and then you've got the top of his shirt that comes under, and the top of the collar of his shirt, and then that just kinks up, drops down, and then curves up to behind his neck. And you can follow this neckline all the way up to his ear, or come down as I'm doing on this now. And then his shirt got the shape of his shirt going up right behind his neck, and that curves down so now we need to put the shape of Newt's lips in. So the top on this side is a little bit higher than on the right hand side of his cheek, and then that curves over, comes across, and you can see how it just comes past, and it's kind of level with the left hand side of his iris as you come down there. So that's where the edge of his mouth is. Now going out to this side, kind of comes to that centre point. So we need the top of his lip going up, and then he's got a little bit of a curve, and then it just curves under. And you can see it just kind of goes up now on this side. To where the edge of his mouth is. And then the bottom lip comes down. It's just a nice curved shape. And goes up and then joins and curves over that way. Now I'm just indicating a little bit of tone just to make that stand out. So you can see his lips just showing up a little bit, and a little bit more, a little bit stronger. Now we have here, and I'm using the side of the pencil, his eyebrow. Comes across. And then we've got on this side a lot of his eyebrow is behind that hair, and that's where we've got that very strong highlighter. So now I can bring down into the highlight. This is where that really dark hair point is that's above. So if we come across there, you can see that point of that where his hair comes down. To join the ear on that side. it's going to be all the shading that will give a lot more form and shape to Newt's face. So now we need this here, just a detail outline going up. And we can bring that hair, shape of that hair a little bit stronger. And then we've got the shape and the shadow on his nose again. Now here you can see you've got a good strong shape and shadow tone. Coming down from the inside of his nose on this side, right the way down here underneath his right eye. And we also need, we can bring, it's got a lot of shadow in here, but you've got this kind of V where the eyebrows are. So we can just indicate that shadow quickly, and then that's where the highlight is on there, and all that's going to be shadowed down, and you've got that highlight going up, and then on this side we've got again this very strong highlight. And then his hair coming off the outside of his jacket. So now this is very close to having a pretty full outline all the way around Newt Scamander. So there we've got a little triangle here on his ear. We've got this little C, like a little C shape, and there's a highlight the same that goes around. Now I'm looking there, and this here is lower. You can see I've actually got the point and I've just missed my reference point. So I'm going to correct that, put that on, and that gives Newt's ear the correct kind of length. Newt obviously played by Eddie Redmayne. I'm looking forward to the next film. I hope you are. I really enjoyed the first. Just a nice, simple, entertaining film. Not based on a massive book like the Harry Potter films were, where they just got the essence of the books. So here we indicate the shape of his hair, and then that kind of boofs up over the top, and then we've got these highlights. Now here, as we got, again, when you're doing hair, remember to go in the direction that the hair is, and you can see in my portraits playlist some of the hair that's on there, whether it's Avicii or Ed Sheeran, and you can see on the time lapses how if you take your time you can really do it well. And the same with Cheryl, she got really lovely hair for that photo shoot when she was pregnant with her first child, Bear. And if you just take your time and go in the direction of the hair, you can indicate the shape and form just with some pencil strokes like this. So again, we've got quite a strong highlight down this side. And now if I indicate the edge of his jacket a bit stronger to where that comes down and goes off, then we've got the very edge going down. I can just quickly increase the line on some of the other shapes. So on his bow tie, you're actually getting to see a lot more of the form and shape of Eddie Redmayne. Ready for the shading stage next. And hopefully we're going to do that quite quickly. So now we're just really going to push some of the shading in and build up on the details. Now I have a piece of kitchen roll and also have a smudger, and we're going to use both of those. You can use your finger, but you can get very dirty very quickly. So I am now just using the side of the pencil, and I'm going to block in a lot of tone. Remember, I use a 2B pencil for this, just because I find that the most versatile of all the pencil grades. And so I'm filling in all of this tone because you've got these two side highlights. Which make the front of his face totally in shadow. And here you can see like this shadow goes up. And it's kind of above, in between his top of his lips and the bottom of his nose. And I'm just putting on a nice simple mid-tone. Where we can just indicate some of the slightly darker shadows, and just keep looking at your reference. And build up the tones slowly, because remember, I always say it's easier to add dark than it is to take it away with pencil. And you can experiment with your touch and feel. With how strong. So here we've got the side of his mouth. So you've got that very strong little triangle highlight going to the corner of where his mouth is. Again, the same with the hair. I'm just going to quickly fill in a lot of the shape of his hair. Very, very quickly. Again, I'm doing this to be as quick as I can, but also so you can see how this goes. But I'm not doing a very quick sketch. Like if you look, check out in the portraits, how to draw portraits, well, just the how to draw playlist, there's one of a comedian named Bill Bailey, and that was 24 minutes, and that was very loose. So you can see how the more time that you spend, as you see in the actual time lapses of, say, Avicii or Ed Sheeran or Prince Harry and Meghan Markle on their wedding day, that you can get a lot more detail. But I'm just being impressionistic and loose just to give you the idea of how to get this form down. And some people quite like these kind of very loose sketches, and I might do some much looser sketches as well over time, just to give you guys something to enjoy and practice, and just see how it can come together very quickly when you do a portrait. Now again, that's on the side of his ear. This ear is darker with some highlights on. I'm just filling that in. So now we need to darken down underneath his eye. And again, right underneath there, and there. You've got a bit of a triangle here. Again, I'm quickly indicating this. Now here we've got this shadow on the side of his nose. And when you smooth out with a piece of kitchen roll or a smudging tool, you actually soften everything down. Because it really presses the graphite into the paper. So here we need that dark coming down. Now you can see the whites of his eyes are really standing out, so they need to be darkened down because they are not highlights. So I've now kind of matched them in, and that really helps, right, to not make it look too glaring. Now we've got the shadow on the side and then coming down his nose. Got that dark shadow again underneath his nose. We've got a darker shadow the side of this eye, and then where the edge of that comes in on his cheek, the highlight. And then right down the edge of his chin and his cheek on this side. You can see here I need to increase the height of that angle as that comes down and then shoots across. And then we've got this shadow coming down to the edge of his lips, and then the kind of hollow in his cheek, right to the edge. And we've got underneath his cheek, and you've got that real crease. That's coming together quite happily. Underneath his bottom lip, and you've got this kind of little egg shape. It comes down and is the edge of his chin. We need to push the shadow from the edge of his mouth up to the hollow in this side, and you can see you've got that very, again, strong cast shadow caused by the very powerful highlight. We can indicate that down under there, again under the bottom lip, bottom of his chin, and then again his chin is convex, so you've got the little highlight on the top. You can see how that's really starting to pull together. We can darken the shadow in his lips, the crease in between his top and bottom lip. Again, it's not a simple solid sharp line, it's quite soft on this, and that's quite a nice thing. It doesn't mean you've got a sharp edge like you have with the kind of crease in an eye. So we can darken that down, and then again your lips have a kind of set of creases in. So just like hair, if you follow the direction of the creases, the little lines, that helps give you more authenticity in how your drawn lips look. So now we've got that shadow going out. Got a little bit more dark on the top lips. And then we've got underneath his nose, got the top of the lip, but you've got this nice cast shadow that's coming down matching this one here, and then that just slightly peters out. And then a stronger line coming down to the bottom of the nose, and a bit more of a stronger shadow up there on that side. So there you can see some tones starting to pull together, and we can again just increase and darken. I need to indicate more of the hair there. Now I'm just going to pull out some of the strong highlights. You see that really lifts up, and especially this one next to this eye here, because we don't want to lose those when we smudge over in a second. So now I've got a clean piece of kitchen roll and I'm just folding it up so they get a nice point. But I'm using that to just smudge. Now you don't have to smudge, you can keep it as a loose sketch like that and you can just keep on building the tones up. Because of the previous ones that I did, to show you a more detailed drawing, that's why I'm smudging this, so that you can really see a bit of a more detailed drawing come together. And you can see how it just softens everything up. Now, again, I've gone over the lines, but that doesn't matter because I had the highlights indicated. You can see you can then just pull them up quite quickly. Again, the edge of his nose here, that highlight going up, and then the really strong sharp point, and then coming down onto his nose. And again, the same thing on this side. We can just clean that out. And the edge of his ear. And then we can put on some of the darker tones to really darken it all down. It'll give it even more form. And then we can just finish off the final details. So now I'm going to stop my hand from smudging. I'm still using a 2B pencil, but I'm now going to really darken down these shadows in his eyes, and that'll hopefully, you'll see, give much more definition. So there we want the underneath of his eyelid going over to his tear duct, and there what we need is a darker line coming out where you've got that crease, and then his top eyelid kind of comes right out and over. And then what we need is to really darken the eyebrow over the top. And so there you've got it. Much more defined area straight away. But again, we can do the same and just keep darkening these little bits. And that comes down there. And we've got little indications of his eyelashes, so I'm just kind of squiggling those on, technical term, squiggling. And then you've got this shadow. That comes down to form this V on his nose. And then underneath his eye, so you've got this crease underneath his eye, like the bag underneath your eyes, as they're called. And then you've got all of this area down to the nose. So you've got that shape there, so that's a bit darker. And we can just increase that. Now again, you're just putting little crosshatch lines over, and it starts to build up the tone and give you more definition on your drawing. So again, this side, got the tone of this V coming underneath, and it darkens as it comes on this side a little bit, and again going up into his hairline. His hair's causing a shadow, so that's going to be a bit darker. And you just work around your drawing freely to build it up slowly. Again, we've got a little bit of his eyebrow just showing underneath, and you've got quite a dark patch there. And then we've got that little bit of highlight coming down into his eye. But from the eyebrow you can see you've got this nice line coming down, and it's very dark into the corner here where his nose is, and then inside there you've got that dark into where his tear duct is. And we can really darken down the iris. Again, his top of his eyelid and his crease are very close together on this one and quite dark. So we've got that light highlight. It's kind of surrounded. Then you've got a much darker tone there, coming down to where the top of that highlight is. And then come round under the eye. And again we've got a shadow underneath that highlight, which comes over to the kind of bag on his eye, underneath his right eye, that goes right into the corner. Now we need to bring the shadow down on the white of his eye. Kind of halfway, and a bit more on that side. So that it all just darkens up, and then down the side of his nose we've got this little crease, and we can build up the shadow on his cheek where that comes down. Bit darker, and it's inside the kind of outer tone, you know, so don't go right to the edge with the dark, and then you can smudge it. So there's lots that you can do to build up your tones slowly, and you just keep working around. So now we want a stronger shadow underneath the nose, where the darkest part will be. And again, you've got a slightly darker tone there as it curves around, and slightly darker as it goes up the side to this strong highlight, just giving definition. And then that comes down there, but here you can see we need to build that tone up, so you've kind of got a column coming down the centre of his nose. Now we will pull that out a little bit with the putty rubber pretty soon. And so what we need to do now is get that nice point on the side of his highlight, on the side of that nose, and there's a bit more tone there. Again, I'm just filling these shapes in, looking, and you can see where the tone is, and then you can just scratch away with your pencil and just doodle, and you can build up the tones to give more form and definition to Newt or any portrait that you want to do. So all of these techniques and skills, exactly the same as when I do the cartoon characters, are to help you grow and develop your skills as an artist, so that you can not only do your own cartoons or portraits, you can do pets, you can do anything that you want to. You know, you can do space rockets or cars or motorbikes or boats, you know, any pets. If you're into horse riding, there are books that you can get specifically for how to draw horses, and yeah, there'll be things that you can check out, but ultimately the techniques are pretty much the same, and it's down to you putting time in to your drawing. So we need that crease that goes up there, and you can see that kind of goes up to his nose, and the same with the one on this side. And the more practice you do, the better you're going to get. And it just takes time. I've been doing art now for over 40 years. I can remember drawing as a child, and I just drew all the time. And I can remember, so I was in the 1970s, I can remember drawing Star Wars characters. And that's how I developed my techniques, copying comic books, Star Wars characters, and then got to the point where I was creating my own, did art at high school, and then went to art college. So you've got the chances of developing your skills exactly the same as I had. It just takes a lot of time and practice and effort. So now we need a much darker edge. And again, it's quite soft, so we need that for the side of Newt's jaw and neck. Again, just gently keep building up. Again, it goes a little bit light and then it goes really dark. Because of the curve of his neck down on this side. Now, if you can see there underneath his shirt line goes up right underneath his jaw. So we're getting a lot more shape and form. I can darken that down. Again, darkening down to the edge of his chin, down the right hand side of his face. And pushing that over. Now that's got quite low and will need sharpening in a bit, but I have this other pencil that I can use as well, so I'm going to sharpen the pencil and then we will carry on. So now I'm going to use the smudging tool. Like I say, you can sharpen your pencils, but I'm going to push everything around, all these tones now, using this smudging tool. And you use it exactly the same as you do a pencil. And you can press on, you get darker tones. So, doing all around the edge of his neck. Again, this ear. You've got tone coming all the way down with a highlight right to the bottom. And then got that. The creases inside his ear going up. And I'll just do that in his hair, but got here now, I say down underneath his neck, we've got a darker tone, and here where it goes up and joins underneath that very sharp highlight. We might need to darken that down a little bit from the crease, but we can do that again with adding more pencil. So now I'm just going to kind of mid-tone, just shuffle across, so all of the tone comes together. I'm going to try and work across this really quickly now. Again, the shadow underneath his nose is darker. Cleaning the tip off a little bit because it does pick up lots of pencil. You might just want to clean it off using your kitchen roll. So that goes to the edge. I haven't even darkened down his ear yet, but there's that much on the smudging tool that I can get a really decent tone down before we come back to it. So again, that's the side of his head. And you can see how it's really starting to come together now. The form and the shape are really starting to work and give you all the three-dimensionality of Newt's face. So again, you've got that darker shadow right underneath his eye, and then it kind of peters out as it comes across his cheek, and then that line that comes down. You can see you've got those kind of bags underneath his eyes. Just using the smudging tool, I can increase those to give them that little bit more form and delineation, exactly the same way as you can with a pencil. So again, that stronger shadow just inside. That needs to curve over. Now, Newt has got freckles, so you can use the smudging tool and just kind of smudge on some of his freckles, which is quite nice. Now again, I'm going to darken that up. It's a bit lighter down on this side, but as you come down over the top of his mouth, you get this darker tone right underneath his nose, just to show out. It gives a lot more form and strength. And then you want to dark underneath that part of his nose. Again, going up. We can pull out some highlights with the eraser very gently soon. But now, the tone here, his bottom lip needs to darken down a bit. And we can really darken down underneath his chin. And that needs to, and that'll go even darker in a little while. And then we can increase the depth on his nose so that the highlight kind of shows at the very end. And that's Newt looking pretty good. Now again, I'm going to increase the shadows on the lips. We need some real good darks now. You can see how the shadow in between his lips has kind of dissipated. I've just wiped the edge of my smudging tool. I'm now going to softly put the shadows in, because his eyes are completely in the shadow. We can just pull out a little bit of highlight in a bit. I'm now going to use my 4B pencil, because that will give me a much darker line. So we've got that going up the side of his nose. Going into his eye. And you see it just kind of crisps that up a little bit. Again, I need the same now for in between Newt's lips. Just to increase that dark. And it's just nice and soft, the edges aren't crisp. Now, right underneath his chin, so we've got that little point that goes there. We have that dark coming right up to the side. Now, I'm going to indicate right the way up to his collar. The dark line. Again, that just gives him that little bit more form. When we put the dark in, that'll really pull his face together. But now got to increase the darks again in his eyebrow, coming down off his eye. In his pupil and his iris. and then going down under the fold of his eye into his tear duct. So again, you can see just by increasing the tone a little bit and darkening everything down, it makes the work that you've done with the smudging tool come into focus. So again, we need to darken going down into the tear duct and the edge of his iris and his pupil on this eye, and then going down to the corner of his eye on that side. Now I'm going to go back to the 2B pencil, because it's that little bit harder than the 4B, so I can use the sharp point a little bit more accurately, and this is where I can increase the shadows. It'll just give you that little bit more form and shape, and you've just got more control over how much pencil goes down. So again, need to increase the shadow as that curves around inside there. Again, the delineation on the topmost part of his under eyelid, and then this nose on that side there, and again just down his cheek. I hope you're enjoying this, because you're getting to see a kind of full portrait come down and be produced from start to finish. And it's quite a detailed one, but the techniques are the same. So whether I'm doing the cartoon drawings, how to draw the Incredibles, say, or Woody or whoever, the techniques are the same. See, like there, I've just gone in a bit too much, so I can pull that off, get the smudger, and push that back up. And so I'm hoping that this is giving you a lot of inspiration for your own artwork. Now, this is good fun because it just helps keep your techniques going. You know, I really enjoy doing this and sharing with you these techniques. So please do like and subscribe and share it out with your other friends who like drawing. But now, like I say, if we can really increase, so a darker line underneath that bottom lip, and a little delineation there, and he's got this kind of square 90-degree shadow that comes down from the hollow of this cheek and comes across and goes right up into the hollow of that cheek. And that forms over the top of his chin. So there we've got these shadows just building up and giving more and more form to Newt's face, but it'll really come together when we block in his hair and his jacket. So we shall crack on with that now. Now before I do, I am going to attempt, there we go, can pull some of those hair highlights out before I smudge too much, and that'll help when we get to block this hair in a second very quickly. So now again, I've gone back to the 4B and I'm going to use the side. And again, follow the shape of the hair as if you are brushing it. Now I am being very quick and very impressionistic. So we've got this good dark here, and the hair kind of comes down and you've got these curls that come down to the front, right the way to that piece. Now again, I've just got to indicate where all his hair is. I hope somebody is grinding again. That'll be on the background. This happened in Harry Potter, so I'm awfully sorry, but as we have a 30-degree kind of heat wave in the UK and none of us are used to it, I do need to have the window open. And so there we've got Newt's hair starting. Now on this side it's not as dark. So I can just indicate the shapes of where it all goes. That comes down over that part there. Again, keep looking at your reference, whether you're doing it from a photograph like this or you are working from life. You know, if you set up a still life with different objects on, keep looking at it, because that is what you are trying to capture in your art, and that is the whole point of doing this kind of drawing. Is to help you with your hand and eye coordination for you to be able to put down on paper in front of you what you are looking at. So again, as I said, I am doing this very quickly, very loosely, just to give a great impression, or as good an impression as I possibly can. So all of Newt's hair is kind of being blocked in. Now I'm going to use the kitchen roll and smudge quickly so as we kind of fill in all the tonal areas in the dark bits. But it does kind of soften it off. So now we've got all of those fantastic highlights. Now when you smudge like that, it does push it into the paper and it makes it difficult to actually get the pencil off, which is why I said it's easier to add dark than it is to take away. And on the dishevelled Grindelwald drawing, you see me actually using paint to put highlights back on. Now, that's a technique that you can use. You can use chalk or a pencil crayon if that'll work on top of the smudged pencil that you've just really squodged in. But you can use paint, and you'll see other drawings where they've done this because they just want to indicate the highlights quickly. So the only way to do this without using paint, and I had to use paint with the Avicii drawing as well, is you take your time and you leave it. When you've got messy hair like this, it's a bit of a problem to leave all of the highlights showing, and it just is a nightmare to do it and leaving the paper. So actually using paint or some other medium on the top is much better and gives you much more freedom to just carry on doing your drawing and as quickly as you want to. So, as I say, this, I've taken a lot more time on these so that you can see it for real. But there will be, I should have mentioned this very earlier, a shortened version where getting the outline down is real time, and then all of this shading will be in a quick time lapse. So I've just indicated a lot there of little highlights, as many as I can, and now I'm going to just indicate again very, very loosely. And I'm turning the pencil to keep it sharp. Remember, this is a 4B, so it does go blunt very quickly. But as I say, that there will be a shortened version where you will have all of this shading in a short time lapse. So rather than watching the full 2 hours, you can actually just watch what you need to watch in getting the outline down, and then you can watch the shading very quickly. And that's hopefully another little bonus that you can utilise and learn to help you on your drawing journey. So now I'm just indicating the darker shadows on this quickly. The pencil's getting quite blunt, but you can see his hair is really starting to take shape and form over his face now. Now again, I'm going to go back to the 2B just because you've got a little bit more control, and you can see his hair has to come down quite a way, quite close to his eyebrow, and the shadow of his eyebrow can just go up that little bit. We've got those little highlighted bits there, and again the same here. We've got these stronger highlighted, so I'm using the edge of the pencil to get those indicated in, and you've got the hair going right behind, and then the same on this side. So where it's really dark, no, that's not the 4B. I'm going to change that so as I've got a bit more of a point. So I'm bringing the dark of his hair down further. And just indicating the shape and dark value of this hair where it comes down over his eyes. So again, now on this one I'm going back to the 2B just so that I've got that little bit more control, and that needs to be quite darkened in. And the same on the centre part. See that his hair comes down quite far, so even though I can't indicate it with highlights, I am doing it with the pencil just to give that impression. You can see now how that's really covering over his eyes quite nicely. So again, I now need to indicate where with lighter tones where his hair is breaking up, and because I'm not doing a dark background, I'm indicating using the actual pencil line. Newt's kind of hair as it straggles off at the top in that highlighted part. Again, using the 4B, giving myself some much darker tones. So that is really starting to come together. Back to the 2B. Again, I'm just indicating quickly in the direction where his hair goes. Elements of flecky hair, just to give more three-dimensionality to the top of his head. Again, it gets lighter. You see, there are, you can just hear that flicking in, just touching the paper. So back to the 4B, let's put real dark in. Just to give it that three-dimensional tone as it comes over the top of his head. And the same with down the side. So there you've got a lot of Newt Scamander's hair, looking pretty good. I'm going to try, I don't think it's going to work, but oh, there we go, just very gently it will pull out some of the pencil, but very, very gently. Again, we've got to just tweak some of this up. So now we are going to indicate very quickly. Again, I'm using the 4B pencil. Yep, I am using the 4B because it's softer. While I am doing down by his neck, I'm going to put this line in very close in his ear because I don't want to go over. Now I have taken a lot longer on this one. This one's going to be over 2 hours long. But there will be a time lapse up so you can see the whole lot in a few minutes, and then there'll be that one where you can see the outline put down and then the shading in a time-lapse form, which will be a lot quicker. So they are the options that are up there, but it's just good to give you these options to actually see a full picture from start to finish. So now I am putting this in really quick. So we've got that dark all the way down there, and that shadow goes all the way up to there. And so now I'm blocking that in quickly. And then same on this side. We've got that little shape in that highlight, and we've got that strong highlight on his coat. Now again, just like hair, I am kind of following the direction of the actual weave of the fabric on his coat. So that again just helps because it's just quick. I'm being very quick, loose and impressionistic on this. Again, I want a nice mid-tone all the way down there, but that needs to go level. And then I'm just knocking in those lines very quickly that show you the actual weave in the fabric of his overcoat. And you can put these in quite quickly and impressionistically, just to give you that indication that there is a weave. Again, after that, I'm just going over in a different direction just to kind of cross hatch it and give it a little bit more tonal definition. Again, this inside of his collar, and then just a little couple of indications, and then we need to really just pull out that highlight, the same on those two, and right the way over. So there you've got the side of his jacket done. Now again, this one kind of got a little bit of cross hatching, so you can just zigzag up and down but go both ways. Press on and it can be a little bit darker. Now the inside of here needs, you've got that shadow coming down, matching that line that you originally put down on the inside of his overcoat onto his jacket. Now he's got a darker shadow under there, but the actual jacket is all a decent mid-tone, but it's obviously darker here So I'm using the side of the pencil to fill in the area quickly. Again, kind of following the direction of the weave, which you can just see gently in the actual reference photo. And then the same on this side. So I've got a bit of the edge of his collar. Got to have a shadow on. Oops, dropping, caught it. Nearly dropped the pencil. Now, I'm doing this side the same. Obviously I've got to increase the shadow as it comes up into the top of his collar, because that's going to be very dark up here. So again, all the way inside of this collar, and I'm going to be very careful again next to his cheek, just leaving that kind of highlight. And then down the edge of the inside of his overcoat. So you've got a very dark shadow. You can see how straight away that's given so much more definition to Newt's face. Now, I'm just going to change the pencil so as I've got a longer pencil tip, just so as it'll fill it in much quicker rather than the little stub that I've got left. And you can see that that is now filling in that area much quicker. And I've got the highlight that's going to come across the top. So that's filled in all of that jacket. Then we need that edge, and then we've got underneath his lapel on his dress jacket, underneath his overcoat, is a bit more darker shadow, and obviously underneath his bow tie you've got a darker shadow, and the same going around up there. Now again, we've got this kind of following the lines. I'm just turning the pencil so I'm getting the sharper edge, because it's a 4B, it goes blunt, remember, much quicker. Now this inside bit on his shoulder behind his overcoat lapel is a nice dark patch. I've just filled that in, and then it is a bit darker, so I'm just indicating the weave again. Again, just over the top, indicate the pattern in the weave of the jacket. I just want to finish off that darker part. And again, that's minutes worth of work, which is very good and very quick. Now, here, I'd missed off, you've got this very dark shadow here, but I'd missed off the inside of his collar on this side. Now, what I'm going to do is, because his shirt's got a lighter tone, I'm going to get a cleaner piece of kitchen, clean area on the kitchen towel, pick up some pencil from down here, and then you can see I'm just filling in all of this area of his shirt nice and lightly, because there are some lines on there, using the kitchen roll to bring the tone in. So it's darker obviously inside this collar here, underneath the bow tie, down there, but you can very quickly fill in a large area using something like that. Again, back with the 4B because I need to get the dark back here. So I've just picked up a lot from there, and then darken the shadow down over the top of that collar. There's a real dark shadow where the collar comes underneath. Same on that side. Bow tie coming down. And now we've got this real dark coming down underneath the bow tie. Now I'm going to get another pre-sharpened 4B. Now you can see on his bow tie there's a bit of a check pattern, so I'm just going to quickly use the side of the pencil, and you can see we've got a little rectangle there, and I'm just filling in the shapes of this kind of check pattern that he's got. Very loosely, very quickly, just indicating the shapes using the side of the pencil, sometimes more of the tip than the actual pencil itself, the flat. And that way you get all of the darks in, and you're creating the pattern. You're just being loose and impressionistic, using the pencil marks to indicate the actual pattern. Now I'm going to smudge over the lot, well, just sketch over the lot quickly, and get the smudging tool and you can really indicate the pattern a little bit more just using the smudging tool. Again, using the smudging tool underneath his chin, down onto the inside of his shirt collar, the inside of this shirt collar here, increase the shadow underneath the bow tie. Now that's the 2B. Let's get my 4B again, just to darken up some of those pattern lines. Again, you can just crisp up and give some delineation. To the edge of the bow tie. And you can soften off the shadow under his chin. So, and then obviously really darken it underneath the bow tie here, because that gives it its shape and form. And there you can see you've got the bow tie come in really quickly. Now I'm going back in with the 2B pencil. There's the button, 4 little marks inside. And you want a little bit of shadow underneath. There's the edge of his shirt as that comes down. Now I'm darkening underneath where the edge of this collar is. Or even just smudging part of his jacket under his overcoat. And you can push your tones around as much as you want. And again, it's down to you. You take as much time or as little as you want. So now I want that shadow right underneath to come down, and you've got the cast shadow from his shirt. Now there are some very, very, very light lines. So I'm using the edge of the pencil and just indicating very quickly the lines as they come down, turning the pencil to keep the sharper bit actually producing the line that I'm after. And then you've got, I'm just going to use the edge, these little dots actually across his shirt. Now you can actually place them exactly where they need to be, or you can do what I'm doing here and just be impressionistic and just dab, because you've got that wonderful shape. Now we're coming to the final details. So I'm really, there we go, I'm darkening under the chin, and I'm working quickly just so that I can kind of get done, because this has been over 2 hours now. I've got the edge of his mouth, darkening that shadow down. Again, coming back up underneath this eye, that highlight, we can darken that and increase the mood and intensity. And then right down the side of his nose. But you can spend as long as you want on your drawing, darkening that down in that ear. Again, that needs to be darkened down. That needs to underneath his bottom lip, and again on his chin, underneath the nose. And then down over that cheek. And you just look at where the tones are and build up an increase. More or less, depending how far you want to push your drawing. So now I'm going to come back in with the 2B pencil. And very lightly, because you've got a bit of shading just here, where the light peels around. And again, the same down here, you got a little bit, but then there's a lot more on this cheek where the hollow is in his cheek. We've got a cast little bit of shadow. And again, going down in that cheek. So now we need to darken the tones down in this ear, on this side. Just so as they go back, because they are more in cast shadow. And then the same on this side, where it comes down underneath his ear, you've got more shadow, and the hair just comes down a little bit. We've got darker part there, and the hair just comes down into his ear, but you've got a slightly darker shadow on the inner part of his ear where it comes down, and then again on that side. Now that's looking pretty good. Finally now, what we have is to just pull up these highlights again, and again using the putty rubber you get to accentuate and just pull out what you need. So we've got this little one on the side of his nose in the centre, just up there, and then we've got little dabs under his eyes, and again just at the top of his eyelid, and where that comes round underneath. And you can mess about the top of his lip and on the side of his cheek and the very tip of his nose, the top of his lips. Oh, just pinching this together. And then you can smooth it out with your smudger a little bit, just to get that shape. Of his top lip back in. But again, your eraser is a drawing tool as much as your pencil, so don't forget that. Anyway, there we have Newt Scamander. I'm quite happy with that. I hope you are. Please do like and subscribe, and check out all of the other videos on how to draw all the Harry Potter ones and the Fantastic Beasts. I hope you've enjoyed that. There will be the time lapse and the shortened one where you get the full drawing line down and then the time lapse of all the shading. Anyway, that's been absolutely fantastic. Thanks again. Please do like and subscribe. Take care, enjoy your drawing, and I'll see you next time. Ta-da.